Okay, I'm going to get started now. First of all, I want to tell you that I am recording the session, not any of you at all. It's just me speaking, just so I can use it for the future and I can review what I talk about so that every time I do the course, I do it a little bit differently and a little bit better. So I just wanted to let you all know that. I want to welcome you to my Get Real, Get Married class. Tonight, my topic is how to get out of a dating rut so that you can move on to find the person that you want to be in a relationship with. A lot of you might know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Samantha Daniels, and I am a professional matchmaker and a dating coach. I've been a professional matchmaker for over 20 years. I own a company called Samantha's Table. I have a book out called Matchbook, and I do a lot of commentary for a lot of shows, TV shows, and publications, just talking about all things dating and relationships. Back when this COVID pandemic started, I started really focusing on my dating coaching and doing these master classes to try to help women become the best daters that they can be, so that when all this craziness is over, you guys can get back out there and get what you really want, which is to find a significant other and get into a great relationship and get married and get remarried, build a family, find somebody to live with for the rest of your life, just have that great relationship. So what I'm going to do just quickly is I'm going to run through how the class is going to go so that you know what to expect. I have a lot of people here tonight, and so I have everybody as an attendee just to keep it easier. It's mostly just a lecture that I give. If you have any questions at the end, as much as time permits, we'll do some questions where you can ask questions. You can raise your hand and I'll pull you in as a panelist, or you can just type it either to me directly in the chat or to the whole group. How the time is going to go is, first I'm going to share a little bit about my own personal dating rut that I was in prior to meeting my husband, which was how I got to this place of wanting to help women get real so they can get married. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my Get Real, Get Married masterclass so that you can determine whether or not it might be something that you might want to sign on for in the future. And then we're going to discuss the topic of the night, how to get out of your dating rut. We're going to talk about how you can determine if you're truly ready to meet the one, which a lot of times will block whether or not you're able to. Then we're going to talk about how you can recognize your dating patterns that are holding you back from meeting the one. And then we're going to talk about how to choose different partners who might be better partners for you. Then how to recognize if you're choosing unavailable people, red flags that you're wasting your time, and how you can get out there and meet new and different people during COVID and also after COVID. So to start out my dating rut story, before I met my husband, I was in a dating rut. The reason why I was in the dating rut was because I had been dating a guy who was separated, who I was crazy about. Separated guys had always been a mixed bag for me. They were good for me because they had been out of the dating pool, kind of doing their own thing in marriage land, and they didn't really know much about me or the fact that I was a matchmaker or the fact that people knew me in the dating industry. So I felt like they weren't as put off by my profession or intimidated by it, which I had some issues with when I was single. But they were also a negative because a lot of times when you're with a separated guy, they don't necessarily want to commit, or they sort of need to sow their wild oats, or and so you take a risk by dating somebody who's just out of a marriage. Anyway, I took the risk and I started dating this guy, and I was crazy about him. We got hot and heavy very quickly. He was having me meet his kids. He took me on a trip to France. He had me meet his family, and he was going on and on about how we were going to be serious and we were going to get married and engaged and all the different things. And I got very taken with the whole fantasy of becoming Mrs. Such and Such. And I wasn't really watching for all the handwriting on the walls that maybe he wasn't ready. And then a few months into our dating, I noticed on Facebook that he had friended this woman who I was friendly with, who was a Ford model. And I asked him very casually, why did you friend that woman so-and-so who was a Ford model? And he said, well, my partners in my hedge fund made a joke to me that they didn't think that I should get engaged and get remarried without dating a Ford model. So when he said that sentence to me, I focused on the wrong part of the sentence. I focused on the part of the sentence where he said, get engaged and get remarried, because in my head, I'm like, oh, he's thinking about getting engaged and remarried to me. But what I needed to focus on was the fact that he said that he needed to date a Ford model. So of course, what wound up happening is he started dating her. And I was at a conference on the West Coast, and he wound up texting me and breaking up with me and telling me that he was going to focus on her. And I was really, really upset. I was sitting next to a woman who I didn't know, a complete stranger, and she saw how upset I got, and she asked me if I was okay, just to be nice. And I said I wasn't, and she said to me, well, do you want to talk to me about it? And I said, I don't even know you, you're a stranger. She said, well, try me. So I poured out everything to her, all my dating problems and what had happened with this guy and how I couldn't meet the right person and how I wanted to get married and I wanted to be with someone and all of that. And she read me the riot act. She was really tough on me. She was really direct. She was really honest. She made me cry, but she made me realize exactly what I had been doing wrong and the part that I personally was playing in all of my dating problems. She became the bitchy best friend that I didn't have, and that I really needed. So I went home from the conference and I took off a month from dating. I just didn't date for an entire month. And I spent a lot of time thinking about all the things that I was doing in my dating, what I was doing wrong, some that I was doing right, what I should have been focused on, why I was choosing the wrong men. And I really, really spent a lot of time working on me and getting real about who I was and who I wasn't and the part that I was playing in my dating. And after exactly 1 month, I went out. And the first night that I went out, even though it becomes a very neat story, I actually met my husband. I didn't know at the time that he was going to be my husband, but on that particular night, that night that I went out, I actually met him. And to actually land him, I wound up following my own rules and being very real about everything so that I could actually get married. So from that time forward, I made a decision that I wanted to help women get real about what was going on in their lives so that they also could get married. So that's where this whole course and class comes from and where I started thinking about it and all of that. To tell you a little bit about the class, my Get Real class is a 3-week class. It's a combination of a group therapy and one-on-one coaching at the same time. There's usually somewhere between 6 and 8 women in the room, in the Zoom room. And I try to put people together who I feel like complement each other and can help each other with each other's issues, and really be cheerleaders for each other and whatnot. And we really focus on figuring out what each individual woman's get real issue is, which means what does she need to get real about that's holding her back from meeting the right person. And as I work one-on-one with each person, the other people really learn a lot about themselves as well. And then we do a lot of group activities and we talk about a lot of group things so that I can help you understand exactly the part that you are playing in what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong in your dating. And a lot of times women wind up recognizing that what they thought was the thing that they should be leading with in dating was actually the thing that was sabotaging them, and things that they didn't think were great about themselves when they went to dating was the thing that really men would like. They learned all about themselves and what was working and what wasn't working, and really understanding who they are and who they're not in the dating arena, that they needed to date as themselves as opposed to dating as one of their friends or dating as somebody who they wanted to be. Because when you're dating, it's important that you recognize who you are and who you're not so that you can get into the relationship you want. We spend time looking at your dating history and the part that that plays in your dating present and your relationship future. We talk about your dating negatives and positives and how to use both of them to your advantage. We talk about real dating do's and don'ts, whether you like them or not. And finally, we talk on finding you and helping you keep the love of your life and the person that you really want in your life for the rest of your life. So if you're interested in taking the course, you can go to my website, samanthastable.com/getreal, and you can find out more information and sign up for the course. Okay, so now we're going to move on to tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is how you're going to get out of your dating rut. And I get it because, as I told you, I was there. And most everybody who's single falls into a dating rut at some point. It's really, really crappy to go on date after date after date and it doesn't work out. Getting all excited and all hopeful about this person being the one, and then just getting disappointed again and again that they don't measure up, or that they don't like you when you like them, or that they feel unavailable, or that the timing was wrong and it just isn't working. And to make matters worse, it's even more upsetting because you look all around you and you see friends and colleagues who are able to get into relationships, who have been in relationships, who are getting engaged, getting married, and you can't even get to first base. And it sucks and it feels terrible and you just want to quit dating. And I totally get that. Whether you're out of a marriage and you're trying to get back out there to date again, or if you're just trying to get married for the first time, everybody kind of feels the same way. They just feel dejected and depressed, and people just don't want to go out anymore. And I totally understand that, and it's really hard. And especially during this time, during COVID, it's even harder because what are you really doing? A lot of times you're doing Zoom dates, which might not amount to anything, or you're thinking about meeting people face to face, but you're not really sure if you should do it. You're not really sure if they're safe. You're not really sure how to do it. And month by month, week by week, month by month keeps going by, and COVID keeps going, and you think to yourself, I'm losing time. I really just want to be married. I really just want to have a family. I really just want to figure out my life. And you were struggling with that. And then along came this pandemic that's never ending. And so it totally, totally sucks. So I completely understand, and you are not alone. Lots and lots of people who are single feel this way. Probably every single person right now feels this way because of COVID and just because of life in general. But you can't let that get you down, because at the end of the day, Noah's Ark was 2 by 2. Most people find a significant other. There's a lid for every pot and all the different cliches. And if you figure out how to meet the right person, then you can meet the right person. So it's a new year, and it's a good time to put your dating rut behind you and to say to yourself that this is going to be the time that you're going to move forward. So first thing I want to talk to you about is you need to really ask yourself, are you truly ready to meet the right person? Because a lot of times you think you're ready to meet the right person, but you're not really ready. And if you're not ready, then it's not going to happen, because a lot of times it's a mind over matter thing. A lot of times it's putting yourself out there in the right way. And a lot of times it's making sure that you don't sabotage yourself in the dating arena. So if you're trying to figure out whether or not you're truly ready, you have to think to yourself, do you see yourself in a serious relationship? Do you see yourself being monogamous with someone? Do you see yourself living with someone, getting married, giving up your independence, and really compromising and moderating your behavior and your lifestyle? Now, a lot of those things seem really scary to a single person, especially someone who's never been married before. So you have to rejigger your brain about what that stuff really is so that it doesn't scare you off and make you sabotage potentially good relationships. So if you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, my God, I don't even know if I can do this because I don't know if I can spend the rest of my life having to be with the same person 24/7, having to talk to the same person. Let's say we get bored. Let's say we have nothing to talk about. Let's say I can't stand looking at him. Let's say we get into fights all the time. Let's say he's not funny. Let's say he's bad breath, like all those things. But what you have to do is you have to rejigger that. And you have to say to yourself, that yes, during COVID, it might seem like 24/7, but when things get back to normal, relationships are not 24/7. You both have jobs usually, or at least one of you has a job, which means that one of you is leaving the house, which means that they're probably out of the house, 7, 8, 9 hours a day. Then sometimes you have other things that you do in the evening. Sometimes they have other things they do. Sometimes you work out. Sometimes they work out. Then you sleep for 8 hours. And so a lot of the day of the 24/7 that you think you need to spend with this person, figuring out how to have conversations and freaking yourself out about what that is, it's not really 24/7. You get to choose how much time you spend with your partner. And if you love your partner and it's amazing, you'll spend tons of time with them. And if it's a day where you really need to be by yourself, then you be by yourself. But you don't have to scare yourself away from getting married or getting into a relationship because you're scared that you can't handle it. I felt that way. I wasn't sure if I could handle it. And some days I can't handle it. That's how everyone feels in relationships. Some days you wake up and you look at the person and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I love you so much. I'm so happy that you're laying next to me. And other mornings you wake up and you look at the person and you're like, what are you doing in my bed? Can you please leave? I don't want you here. And every emotion in between, and that's the way everybody feels. And if you have a friend who's constantly telling you how fabulous their marriage is every minute of every day and how they never fight and they never this and they never that, either they have a very surfacey relationship or they're lying, because that's just not realistic in relationships. But if you love someone and there's communication and compromise, marriage and relationships can be a great thing. So what you have to do is you have to rejigger your brain into thinking that relationships are a good thing. And then you can think to yourself, okay, I'm really ready to meet someone. And then you're not going to go and sabotage situations again and again, because it's hard to meet the right person, as you know. So you want to make sure that when you do meet the right person, that you don't scare them off because of nonsensical things that you have in your head, nervousness, anxiety, problems. You don't want that to be the reason why you let the right one go. Okay, so now let's talk about how we can recognize your dating patterns that are holding you back from meeting the one, right? So where do those dating patterns come from? That's the first thing that you need to think about. Where do they come from? Are they coming from the fact that when you were in high school and college, it was the cool thing to do? Is it because you're trying to mimic the relationship that your parents had? Is it because you're trying not to mimic the relationship that your parents had? Is it because you're trying to prove something that you're an alpha woman? Or you're trying to prove that you're independent? Or are you trying to prove that you don't need a man, or that you do need a man? Like, where are your dating problems coming, your dating patterns coming from? That's something that you want to think about, so that you can make sure that if your dating patterns aren't working for you, that you can change them, that you can think about, how can my dating patterns be better? Why do I keep picking the same type of man again and again? And dating patterns are a really interesting thing, because you might think that you don't have a dating pattern, because 5 guys ago, he was from Wisconsin and he was 32 and he worked as a doctor and he was 5'5". And then 4 guys ago, he was from Los Angeles and he was 42 and he worked in finance and he was 6'3". And then 3 guys ago, and on and on and on. And on the surface, they all seem completely different. So you think that you don't have a pattern. But the pattern is really the underlying personality traits and value systems that the people have that you date that wind up being the same. How they interact with you, how they treat you, how you interact with them, and most importantly, how you feel when you're with that person. So do they make you feel safe? Do they make you feel insecure? Do they make you feel happy? Do they make you laugh? Like, those things are all the patterns that show up, that if you really think about it again and again, and this is something that I do during the master class, is get everybody to really examine past relationships so that they can uncover their dating patterns, and so they can see the patterns that are positive and the patterns that are negative so that they can meet the right person. Because part of getting out of your dating rut is actually dating better people. And it doesn't mean better people in general, it means better people for you. So a lot of times I see women who date like they're their friend instead of dating like they're themselves. So what do I mean by that? If you're a 5'3" brunette and your best friend is a 5'11" blonde, you can't date like a 5'11" blonde. A 5'11" blonde is going to go out with a different kind of guy than a 5'3" brunette. They're just going to date different kinds of people. Could you date the same people? Yeah, you could, but chances are you're going to be dating different kinds of people. Same thing, personality. If you're a shy person versus an outgoing person, or if you're a funny person versus not a funny person, or if you're a sarcastic person, all the things about you, you need to figure out who you are and who you're not, and then date for you. And then you also have to think who works for you. Who would really feed what you need? All your emotional insecurities and all the things that you need, all the love that you want. What kind of guy could feed that and could make you feel good about yourself? And then that's the kind of guy that you need to be choosing, right? And you need to recognize all of your strengths and all of your weaknesses. So you need to recognize that you are really funny. And then you need to recognize that you talk too much. So that's a strength and that's a weakness, right? And so some people would say, well, I don't talk too much. It's just my personality. And some guys like that. Yeah, some guys like that, but a lot of guys don't. And so if you've heard before that you talk too much, and this is very surfacey, then you need to keep that in mind as something that you might not do, because you know that that could be a turnoff for a man. But if you're really funny, instead of thinking, well, is it okay for a woman to be really funny? You should be really funny. And so that way, at the end of a week, when a guy's reviewing all of the girls that he's gone out with, all the women that he's gone out with, he remembers you because you were really funny and he had a great time with you. So you need to think about what is it that you can bring forward in your dating to make a guy be really attracted to you and to remember you at the end of the week when he's thinking about all the different women he's gone out with. Because we have to talk kind of outside COVID, because obviously in COVID it's different. But generally speaking, with all these dating apps that are out there, any man, any woman could have a date every night of the week. And if you're going out there and you're dating a bunch of people, then there's a lot of guys who are dating a bunch of people too. And so you're competing, and you don't really want to compete, you know, and you think that you're fabulous. Everyone thinks they're fabulous. But at the end of the day, everybody only ends up with one person. And so if a guy goes out with you and he goes out with 4 other women and he thinks to himself at the end of the week, well, who's the one that I really remember? You have to make yourself stand out for him so that he wants to see you again. And he has to do the same for you so that you want to see him again. So what you have to do is you really have to think about what you can bring to the table. What is your dating calling card? That's what I call it, your dating calling card. During my masterclass, we spent a lot of time crafting your dating calling card so that you understand exactly what you're going to bring to the dating table that's going to be attractive to a man. And you're going to understand the things that are actually attractive, because what I find in the class a lot is a lot of women think that the things that are attractive are actually the things that are unattractive. And the things that they think are unattractive are actually very attractive to the man. So we need to get to the heart of what is your dating calling card? What can you bring to the table that's really going to attract the man so that you have a really good date and so things progress, right? Having a lot of good first dates doesn't get you married. So you can tell people, oh, I get a call after every first date that I go on. I don't care. It doesn't matter that you get a call after every first date you go on, because every first date you go on is not getting you married. You need to go on 15 dates with the same person and get a call after 15 dates. And then you need to be able to get into a relationship with them. And then you need to be able to get engaged to them. And then you need to be able to get married to them. And that takes a while. So you have to be able to go through the whole situation and have connections with someone all the way through. So what I do in my masterclass is help you figure out what can you bring to the table that will really help you connect with the person sitting across from you. And of course, mind you, it's not always your responsibility as a woman to make all these things happen. It's his responsibility also to participate. But when you're going on the date, you want to figure out a way to connect with the person so that you have a good time. And so that you can understand, you're almost modeling on the first date, if you do it correctly, what comfortable and fun is going to be like if you're in a relationship with that person. So somehow you need to create that on the first date. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people make it like a job interview. A lot of people ask question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. A lot of people grill people. A lot of people make it boring. A lot of people don't let their personalities come out. And so then the date sucks. And if date after date after date sucks, then you're in a dating rut because you hate dating. So you need to figure out how to make it be fun for you. And then you need to figure out how to make it be fun for him. So that way you have a great time on the date. And then you're not in a dating rut, because even if he's not for you, at least you don't feel like you wasted your time that evening. At least you feel like you had a good time, he had a good time, it's a possibility. And even if you didn't really like him, if you bring your A game, you bring your best foot forward, then he's not going to think about you positively. And wherever you live is really small. Like even if you live in New York City, which is really big, it's still really small. And a lot of times it just happens coincidentally that you wind up going out on a date with a different guy who happens to know that guy who you weren't bring your A game for. And then they're friends. And somehow the guy that you like asks the guy that you didn't like about you, and the guy that you didn't like has negative things and you don't to say about you, and you don't want that happening because you want everybody to be a cheerleader for you. So that when you meet the guy that you really like, everybody thinks positive things. He can't find anybody who has anything to say about you, because men, they're lazy. They're lazy when it comes to dating, and they want it to be easy. And they also don't want to hear anybody say anything bad about you. Because as soon as people start saying things bad about you, then they're not sure. Then they think, gosh, I want to go fish again. I want to go find a girl who doesn't have those issues, who everybody thinks is fabulous, because I want people to think that my wife is fabulous. So you have to make sure that you bring your A game every step of the way. Okay. Important, which I mentioned a little while ago. You all need to go find a bitchy best friend. Now, if you join my course for that time period, I'm going to be your bitchy best friend, and I'm going to read you the riot act all the time about what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. But if you don't, you need to find a bitchy best friend. So who is that person? That needs to be somebody in your life who's going to be honest with you. So we as women, we like to have all these women surrounding us who tell us how great we are. We have all these friends who tell us that we're beautiful, who tell us that our dress is pretty when it's ugly, who tell us that we didn't gain 15 pounds, who tell us that it wasn't our fault that we got blown off, tell us that the guy was commitment phobic, tell us that the guy, that he wasn't worthy of you, and on and on and on. And that's great that they help you feel better, and you need those kind of women in your life, but you actually need one woman, at least one woman in your life, who's going to tell it to you like it is. Who's going to say to you, I call bullshit. That's not true. You have to get real. You sabotaged that situation. That wasn't his fault. That was your fault. He isn't commitment phobic. It was the way that you were behaving. You did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. You didn't smile, you weren't interested. And it's never one little thing that you do. It's always a series of things or a whole feeling of why a guy stops seeing you. A lot of women think, oh, well, if I had just not said that one sentence last night, we'd still be dating. It's never like that. Like never, 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 never like that. But you need to have somebody in your life who's going to call it like it is and who's going to help you look at it realistically. So number one, you can learn to be a better dater. And number two, so that while you're in something, there's somebody in your life who's coaching you to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes again and again. And so your bitchy best friend needs to be somebody who knows you and who's seen what you've done and seen how you act and seen the situation so that they can help you. And yeah, it might feel shitty for them to say bad things to you. And you might not want to hear it. And you might start hating them. You don't really hate them, but you'll kind of hate them. But you need to go to them and you need to say, I need you to be my bitchy best friend. That means that you need to tell it to me straight. And even if you feel bad about it, or even if you make me cry, I really want to get married. I really want to meet the right person. I really want to be in a relationship, and I really need your help. So I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I don't want you to kiss my ass. I want you to tell me the truth of what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right so that I can get what I want the most. And that's what you have to say to your friend, and you got to get somebody to step up and help you with that so that you can actually get to the finish line. And the finish line is what you want when you're trying to get married. Okay, next topic. How can you choose different partners who are better partners for you? So the problem is that women, people, men and women, everybody is attracted to a certain kind of person all the time. So you need to start watching for when you're attracted to somebody who you know isn't good for you, who's not good for you. You need to watch for those patterns. And as soon as that starts happening, you need to not go out with that guy. You need to pay attention to your women's intuition. So what does that mean? That means that if your gut, I'm putting my baby's teddy bear behind my back because my back is killing me. Let's see if that's okay. You need to pay attention to your women's intuition. So what does that mean? That means that if you're just feeling it in you, that this guy's a bad guy, or this guy's a liar, or this guy is not available, or this guy is two-timing you, or this guy is taking you for a ride and he's just not looking for anything, or he's not treating you well, or any of those things, you have to really pay attention. We all know. I mean, what I used to say, and I'm still like this, I have always been able to figure out what is going to be the negative thing about a person the first night that I meet them. So when I was dating, every single time I was dating, I would go out with a guy, and right away, if I liked him, I would like him, but I would know right away what were going to be the 1, 2, or 3 issues in our relationship, like what were going to be those things. And immediately I would know what they were, but I would overlook them or pretend that they didn't exist because there was chemistry or because there were all these other things that I liked about the person. So I pretended like I didn't know what the negative things were, even though I did know. And then we would date for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it was. And when we were breaking up, every single time, we always broke up for one of those reasons that I knew the very first night. Every single time, that was what the deal breaker was. And so what happened? That made me waste a lot of time. Because if I had just trusted my intuition and just paid attention to what I knew from the beginning, I wouldn't have wasted that time. And it wouldn't have taken me so long to get married because I wouldn't have spent all that time with these guys who I knew from the first date were not for me. So now it's crunch time for you. You have done this exactly like I have. You've done it. How many times? Like, be honest with yourself. How many times have you overlooked and ignored that buzzer that's going off in your head saying, don't do it, don't do it, he's not right for you, he's not right for you, no, he's the same guy, he's just gonna be bullshit, it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work, and you just ignore it because you think he's hot, or because you think he's funny, or because you think he has the right job, or you think he's gonna fit into your family, or because you feel desperate, or whatever it is. You can't do that now. Now you have to be more serious. Now you have to be harder on yourself, and now you have to listen to your intuition, and you have to say, I'm not going to do it anymore. I have to listen. I'm not wasting my time. I don't have time to waste. I'm ready to be in a relationship, so I'm not going to do it anymore. You're also going to look out for red flags. You know what red flags are. I'm going to tell you what they are, but you already know what they are. You know deep down, you've been dating for a long time, you're a smart person. You know what red flags are. You have to pay attention to them. You can't ignore them. You can't overlook them. You can't rationalize them away. You have to look for them. And when you see them, you have to run for the hills. What did I used to do always? I would take the red flags under advisement. Okay, I'll take them under advisement. I know that he doesn't call me in advance for plans, and then he calls me at 8 o'clock and says, do you want to get together in a half an hour? And I rationalize and I say, oh, he's really busy at the office. He probably just didn't have time to call me, but I know how much he likes me. I'm going to take it under advisement that he doesn't call in advance. It has nothing to do with how much he likes me, and I'll go out with him again. But then, of course, that's not true, because it doesn't matter how busy a guy is. If he is crazy about you, he will move mountains to see you. He will move mountains to talk to you. He will move mountains to text with you because he can't get you out of his mind. Yes, he's really busy, but he's really into you. So he figures it out. So that's a red flag if he behaves that way, because you know deep down, because you've been there with guys who have really liked you. When a guy really likes you, he acts a certain way. If this guy's not acting that way, don't make up excuses for him. Just accept that he's not really into you. That he's not really into you. He's not really into the situation. Whatever it is, it's not worth your time. It's not getting you anywhere. Yeah, you can stay in it and you can see, you can hang in there, you can whatever, like you've done before. And it could work. It could pay off. But if you're a betting person, it's probably not going to. So why are you going to waste your time? You don't want to. You're not doing that now. Now you're getting real. You're getting real about your time clock, not necessarily a biological time clock, although it might be. It might be because you want to have kids. You're just getting, but it might not be. It might just be because you just want to be with somebody, because you just went through 9 months of this crazy frigging pandemic and you were alone and you hated it. So now your time clock is saying, I want to be with someone. So if that's what your time clock is saying, then it's time to get real. And you get rid of the guys who are telling you, screaming, they're not for you. They're out. Goodbye. Goodbye, Charlie. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Okay? And you can't, this is what women do. Men don't really do this. Women do this. You cannot get sucked into that fantasy in your head. That's what I did with the guy that I told you about with the Ford model. I had this fantasy in my head of being Mrs. So-and-so, that we were going to live in his big house and that we were going to travel the world and that we were going to have children and that we were so intellectually connected and we had the best sex and blah, 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 blah. And I fantasized about how fabulous it was going to be. And I didn't see the handwriting on the walls. I wasn't real. I wasn't paying attention to the reality of the situation. I didn't even hear him say that he was going to go on a frigging date with a Ford model. I heard him say that he was going to get engaged to me. He didn't say he was getting engaged to me. He didn't say that. But that's what I heard because I was living in a fantasy in my head. How many times have you done that? You can't live in Fantasyland anymore. Fantasyland is in Disney World. It's for children. It's not for adults. It's not for adult women who want to get married. If you want to get married, you have to get out of Fantasyland and you have to live in reality. You have to get real about who you are and who you're dating. And if that guy isn't giving you signs that he's really interested in you and that he's really interested in this relationship, you got to get rid of him. You got to get rid of him. You have no choice. Okay. How can you recognize if you're choosing unavailable people? the next topic. We touched on it a little bit, but are you ignoring the handwriting on the walls? Are you doing what I said? Are you rationalizing about things all of the time? Are you letting things pass that you shouldn't let pass? Are you giving him too many hall passes to let him do whatever he wants, where he's misbehaving, where he's not treating you well, where he's forgetting Valentine's Day? Valentine's Day is coming up, you know. Men say, oh, it's just a Hallmark holiday. Bullshit, who cares? Girls like it, women like it. We like Valentine's Day. If they're dating you and they're crazy about you, they know women like it, they got to do something. If they don't do something, that shows how much they like you or they don't like you. It just tells you. They can say, oh, I'm not really into it. I think it's a Hallmark holiday. I never do it, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee you that when they're crazy about a woman, they do it because they're afraid that if they don't do it, she's going to walk. And so you need to make sure that they know that you're going to walk. And it doesn't even matter if you're going to walk. If they don't want to do it, then they're not into you. They're not that into you. They're not into you enough for you to waste your time, spend your time on this guy. No, you can't do it. You can't do it. And are you overlooking the obvious? Are you seeing things that are so obvious that they're slapping you in the face and you're just overlooking them because you want to be with this person so badly? Is that what you're doing? If you're doing it, you've got to stop because all you're doing is wasting time. Number one, you're wasting time. And number two, you're about to throw yourself into another dating rut because as soon as you get out of it with that guy, you're going to be so soured from the dating situation, you're not going to want to date anymore. So you can't put yourself in those situations again and again and again, making yourself feel so terrible in the dating world because you're not going to want to be with anybody. You're not going to want to get out there and date, and you're not going to even recognize when a really good guy comes because you're so soured. So you don't want to be that person. You just don't want to be that person. Okay. Red flags that you're wasting your time. Okay. First of all, we talked about if he has a lot of excuses. If he has a lot of excuses, excuses are no good. You can take one excuse under advisement. But if he has multiple excuses, no, because is that who you want to live with? Do you want a husband who's constantly making excuses? No. Action speaks louder than words. It just does. Actions speak louder than words. If the guy is not actually behaving the way that you want him and need him and deserve him to treat you, no, he's out. He's out so that you're not wasting your time, so that you're not wasting your emotional energy, and so that you're not feeling crappy about yourself and your prospects for the future, because it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you get married. It's not. The other thing, big red flag, if a guy is not curious about you. When men are interested in women, they are curious about you. They want to know everything. They want to know what you were like in high school. They want to know how you spent your summers. They want to know what you were like in college. They even sometimes want to know about your first sexual encounter. They want to know about all of your boyfriends. Sometimes they don't, but a lot of times they do. They want to know everything. They want to know about your family life. They want to meet your parents. They want to meet your friends. They are curious Georges. They are. And if a guy that you're seeing or you're interested in is not curious about you, he's not that into you. He's not. Because if he was, he'd want to know more. Just like you want to know more about him, he needs to want to know more about you. And if he's not like that, he's not into you. Don't waste your time. You've got to see it and you've got to say, nope, I need a man who's going to be interested in me and who wants to know things about me and who's going to be there for me, and we're going to connect on a deeper level. Next, red flag, if he talks about other women to you. A lot of men do this. A lot of women rationalize that the man is doing it because he feels insecure or because he wants to seem cool. You're an adult. The men you were dating are adults. They don't need to seem cool. You should be wanting to go out with a man who is not cool. Cool is no good. Cool is no good. Cool men do not make good husbands usually. They can be cool sometimes, but they also need to be not cool. So cool does not matter. You do not want to be with an insecure man. Why would you want to be with someone who's insecure? You want to be with someone who feels good about themselves. But most importantly, when they talk about other women, it makes you feel like crap. So do you want to be with a man who wants to make you feel like crap? Even if it's making him feel good and making him feel more secure, it's at your expense. So no, you're not being with that man. If he's talking about other women, you give him one opportunity and you say, hey buddy, I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about the other women that you're dating. If you need to talk about the other women that you're dating, then you go talk to the other women that you're dating, and don't talk to me. Don't spend time with me. Don't be with me. I don't want to be with you. You need to be direct and be honest about it. And if he keeps doing it, he's out. Goodbye, goodbye, and good luck. He's out. You're wasting your time. No, he's gone. That's it. That's it. Okay. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is how you can meet men right now. Okay, how you're going to meet new men so that you can get out of this dating rut. So the first thing that you're going to do, which is going to seem obvious, but you're going to do it anyway, you're going to ask your friends if they know anyone for you. Now, I know that you think that if your friend knew somebody for you, that they would offer him up. They know that you're single. They know that you want to meet somebody. So of course, if they had someone, they would tell you. No, that's not true. Your friends all have a lot going on in their lives. As much as you think that they think about you all the time, they do not. They do not have time to think about you all the time. It does not mean that they're bad friends. It does not mean that they don't love you. It just means that they're not really thinking about it. They're not really thinking about your dating. And because they think that you're so great, they think that you've got a lot of men. They think that you don't need them to set you up with anyone, because if you did, you would tell them. So instead of being reactive and being passive in the friend arena, you actually have to be proactive. You have to let your friends know that you're dating and that you'd really like to meet someone, and ask them, do they know someone for you? If their immediate, within 5-second answer is, no, I don't know anyone, you know that if I knew someone, I would have already introduced you to them, that's too quick of an answer. Your response needs to be, I know that you would, of course I know, blah, 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 but do you think that you could spend a few minutes just thinking about it? It might not be an obvious person. It might not be a person that you see every day, but maybe there's a divorced dad at your kid's school who you didn't really think of for me. Maybe there's a colleague at work who you're not that close with, but who you know is available. Can you think a little bit outside the box for me? And you ask them, you empower them, you say, please, can you help me? And surprisingly, a lot of times when they actually spend an extra second thinking about you, they might come up with someone for you to date. So that's number one way. Second way, I want you to start reconnecting with some people in your past. What does that mean? You're probably connected to anywhere between 500 and 5,000 friends on Facebook. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook. It's my business. Most people have 250, 500, 1,000, however many you have. That's a lot of friends. That's a lot of people. How many of those people are you actually in touch with? How many of those people have you said hello to in the past 3 years or 4 years? Hello, how are you? Just wanted to say hi. It's been so long. Facebook gives you easy access to a lot of people who you might not be actively in touch with. I'm not suggesting that you reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in 4 years and say, hey, just wanted to ask you if you know a great guy for me. But you open up a conversation. Was thinking about you. You popped into my head, wanted to see how you're doing. How's it going during COVID? Blah, 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 blah. And you get into a conversation. How are you? What's going on in your life? What's going on in your life? Oh, I'm recently single. I'm trying to get back out there. I'm trying to meet men. You don't ask them to set you up, but you say enough things, the way that you craft it, the way that you say it, that they, if they know somebody, which they might because you haven't even been in touch with them, they would say, oh, really? You're looking to meet someone, or you're dating? Actually, I know a great guy. So reaching out to these people who they're your friends, your Facebook friends, might actually help you meet some men. So that's a good way, to do it. And a lot of people don't think of that, but it's important to do something like that. And when I was single, I used to do that all the time, because you never know who you can meet. And my grandmother, and I have a book out, it's called Matchbook, Diary of a Modern Day Matchmaker, that you can get on Amazon. And on the second page of my book, I have a quote from my grandmother. My grandmother always told me that if you get invited, you go, because you never know who you're going to meet. And so I live by that all the time in terms of being social, but it also lends itself to every situation. And it's the same. If you just reach out to somebody and you say hi, you never know what's going to happen. There's always opportunities. So it's something important that you can do. And the third thing is that whether or not you want to, you should be on those dating apps, because a lot of people are on those dating apps. Everybody's on those dating apps. So you can be proactive on them, or you can be passive. You just put your profile and you see what happens, but you need to be doing it, because sitting in your apartment right now and hoping and praying that you're going to meet someone when there's no socialization basically because of COVID, it's not happening. Like, there's no more milkman, and I don't think you're going to date the delivery guy. So you need to be proactive in some way. So that's friends, that's Facebook friends, and that's dating apps. So you've got to be doing all of those things. So that's my advice on how to get back out there during COVID and in general, and how to shake that dating rut. You have to think about the great person that you are and how you're worthy of love and of marriage. And you just have to rejigger what you're thinking and how you're doing it, and just get out there with a purpose. Get out there with gusto and go meet the right person. So we're basically at the end of the hour. I don't know if anybody has a question that they want to ask. You can also email me afterwards if you have private questions. I see a couple people say that they have some private questions they want to ask. You're welcome to send me an email if you'd like, or if you have a question that you want to ask right now the group. We have a few more minutes. And that's all. So I hope that I see you all again at my masterclass. Again, you can find out more information, samanthastable.com/getreal. Oh, I see a question now. Someone's asking me what I think about how you go from the Zoom date to a one-on-one date during COVID. I mean, how do you cross that line given how contagious everything is and how you don't really know the person and whatnot? I get asked this question a lot. It's complicated for sure, but my advice to you is that you start interacting with somebody by text message, by FaceTime, by Zoom. And if you're hitting it off and hitting it off and hitting it off and have a connection, then you have to have a conversation about it. You have to have a conversation about it, and you have to, the two of you, decide how you are going to go forward with this. It's weird, it's awkward, it's unusual, but it's the new normal in dating, and the two of you need to talk about what you're comfortable with. Masks, no masks, social distancing, no social distancing, just going for a walk, sitting outside and having a bite, what is it? Most of my clients, are starting out with walks, which is, funny, but it's easy and it's safe. And you meet somebody, you can see them, you can see if you have chemistry with them, and then you have to go slow. And if you like each other, then you have to make a decision how you're going to do it. Are you both going to get tested? Are you both going to quarantine? Are you going to say that you're not going to see other people? What are you going to do? And you have to be on the same page. Another question that actually a few of the questions have come up about this. Do I think that if two people are not on the same page when it comes to COVID protocol, is that any indicator as to whether or not they would be good life partners? And I think, it could be, it might not be. You take it under advisement. I mean, generally speaking. Some men are a little bit more relaxed about COVID than women. But interestingly, what I found is that once they go on the dates, the women are sooner to take off their masks than the men. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And I actually think that it's because women want the man to see them, what they look like. Because, you know, for women, it's all, a lot of times it's about the look and all of that to, as part and parcel of trying to attract the man. So the mask, I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel really ugly in it. You know, so I think that women are more apt to take it off more quickly so that a man can see what they look like, but still stay safe. So, you know, it's interesting, but you really have to be communicative. Like more than ever before, you really need to communicate, you know, with the person that you're dating to figure out your comfort level and his comfort level and how to make it work during COVID. So, all right, well, we're at the 9:30 time. I hope that you all enjoyed tonight and that you learned a lot. And I hope to see a lot of you back at another one of these. I'm doing these every week, different topics, sometimes the same topics. So you can see it on my website. I have an online class schedule. And then I also offer the master class, which is the smaller group session. So thanks for taking the time and good luck with your dating and get real. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks. Now everyone's saying thanks, 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 thanks. Okay, thanks. Bye.